I commit to sharing with you in seasons of abundance and in seasons of scarcity.
Blackout day!
Weddings are supposed to be the happiest and most unforgettable memories, but sometimes things can go south. While everyone dreams of a perfect celebration, reality can throw in some cringe-worthy surprises in the least expected ways. From wardrobe malfunctions to epic fails and outright disasters, what happens when I do turns into oh no. These are the top 20 most embarrassing wedding moments that were caught on tape. Number 20, angry groom loses it. There's a lot of stress associated with wedding ceremonies, and it can sometimes get the best of people. At one wedding, things took a sudden turn when the groom completely lost his cool during the cake-cutting ceremony. After months of planning the perfect day, it's not surprising that emotions were running high, but what unfolded shocked the guests. It all started with a minor issue while cutting the cake. The groom seemed frustrated, possibly feeling like he hadn't sliced it correctly. What was supposed to be a light-hearted, sweet moment between the couple quickly escalated. The groom grabbed a piece of cake and forcefully took a bite, then shoved a portion to the bride, clearly not in the playful mood expected during such a tradition. As if that wasn't enough, things got worse when a guest attempted to pop open a bottle of champagne. The groom aggressively snatched it, sprayed the champagne wildly, and smashed the bottle to the floor. Causing glass to shatter everywhere. Before anyone could process what was happening, he even tried to knock the entire wedding cake off the table. At that point, other guests had to intervene and physically restrain him to prevent further chaos. Number 19. Groom's backflip gone wrong. Weddings are all about celebrating love, and let's be honest, the focus is always on the couple. But sometimes, people can get a little carried away trying to impress. We've all seen those perfectly choreographed wedding dances that must have taken months of practice. In this case, the couple had the best of intentions, but their execution was a bit off. As they stepped onto the dance floor, everything seemed to be going smoothly. The bride looked stunning, the groom was confident, until he decided to show off some unexpected acrobatic skills. The bride was gracefully dancing, enjoying the moment, when suddenly her groom attempted a flashy backflip. But instead of sticking the landing and impressing everyone, he completely miscalculated. His leg swung too high and far, and in an unfortunate twist, it smacked his bride right in the head. She didn't just stumble, she was knocked to the ground, completely dazed. The groom, clearly panicking, tried to play it off and continued dancing like nothing had happened. In his attempt to keep the moment alive, he knocked her down again. When the clip is played in slow motion, you can see that his backflip was actually pretty impressive, until his foot catches her right in the head. It's the kind of moment you can't help but cringe at. Usually the first dance sets the tone for the night, but in this case, it probably left everyone in shock. You have to wonder if the DJ played kung fu fighting afterward, although that would have been hilariously inappropriate. It's a moment that leaves you questioning. Did she ever forgive him? And do they still laugh about this today? Number 18. Wedding photographer takes the plunge. Photographers have one job at weddings: capture those timeless moments that couples will cherish forever. But sometimes, things don't go quite as smoothly as planned. The newlyweds had just exchanged vows, surrounded by family, friends, and the joyful sounds of music. Everything seemed perfect, and right there, just beyond the ceremony, was a beautiful lake, perfect for scenic photos, or so they thought. In the photographer's quest to snap the ideal shot, she took one step too far back, straight into the lake. Yep, 1 second, she's focusing on the perfect angle, and the next, she's making a splash in front of everyone. The entire mood shifted as guests rushed to help her out of the water. Luckily, the only casualty was her dignity, as she wasn't hurt, just completely soaked and understandably shocked. While the photographer might have ended up drenched, the good news is the camera escaped the plunge and still managed to get the perfect shot. Even though the couple tried to continue the day as if nothing had happened, it's safe to say this watery mishap cast quite a shadow over the festivities. Number 17. Waiter ruins wedding cake with champagne fumble. Weddings are meant to be magical, but sometimes things go hilariously wrong. Picture this: a massive 5-tier cake, the centerpiece of the reception, standing tall as the couple prepares to cut it. Everything is set for the perfect moment. Enter the waiter. He's got flair, he's got style, and he's carrying a bottle of champagne. But instead of gently placing it down, he firmly slams the bottle on the table, adding a little too much force. The entire table shakes. The cake begins to wobble. You know what's coming next. It's a disaster in slow motion. That majestic cake, meant to symbolize the sweetness of the day, tilts, sways, and then crashes to the floor. Gasps fill the room as frosting and layers scatter everywhere. It's the kind of moment that leaves everyone in shock. And of course, the newlyweds are left without their grand cake-cutting moment. Was the champagne worth it? Probably not. And as for the waiter, well, let's just say his tip might have gone down with the cake. While no one got to enjoy a slice of cake, it's definitely a wedding moment that no one will forget anytime soon. Number 16. Wedding dress on fire. It was meant to be a perfect ending to their vows. Lupe and Luis Quijano were just married, and the celebration was in full swing as they made their way down the aisle. The atmosphere was filled with excitement until chaos struck. Lupe's pristine white wedding dress suddenly caught fire, right in the middle of the procession. The video clip was shared on Instagram by one of the couple's vendors, artist Shauna Bailey. As the newlyweds shared their first kiss as a married couple, guests in the crowd suddenly noticed flames igniting the bottom of Lupe's veil and gown. Without hesitation, friends and family rushed toward the couple to extinguish the fire, preventing the situation from escalating further. It all happened so quickly that Lupe herself didn't even realize what was going on.
We stopped kissing and I looked up and I saw two of my friends running towards me, and I turned back to look to see what was going on.
Until she saw her friends frantically running toward her. The cause? It turns out, paper streamers tossed joyfully by guests landed on decorative floating candles placed along the aisle, sparking the blaze. While the streamers were intended to add a festive touch to the event,
was the people in the back that still hadn't really seen what's going on, so those streamers kept being thrown. They were the items catching fire.
they ended up creating an unexpected and dangerous moment instead. Thanks to quick-thinking guests, some of whom were military personnel and firefighters, the fire was swiftly put out, leaving everyone shaken but safe. In hindsight, the Quijanos hope that their experience serves as a warning for other couples. Number 15. Wedding party takes a plunge into the lake. Your wedding day is the moment you've been planning for months, possibly even years. You've thought of everything: the venue, The church, the catering, the guest list, the photographer, and of course, the dress. It's all been carefully mapped out. But no matter how perfect the plan, sometimes there's a small detail that slips through the cracks. For Dan and his bride, that detail was where they chose to take their group photo. Decked out in their finest clothes, the wedding party gathered on a beautiful dock for the perfect photo op. But then, disaster struck. The dock, perhaps not built to handle such a large group,
So I'll just say out.
gave way, collapsing into the lake and sending almost everyone into the water. Only a few lucky bridesmaids managed to avoid the impromptu swim. Luckily, no one was injured, and with some towels, hair dryers, and a little makeup touch-up, everyone was back on track in no time. The whole event only delayed the wedding by about 10 minutes. Before long, the guests were laughing about their unexpected dip, enjoying drinks, and making light of the situation. Number 14. Groom drops. Bride in hilarious mishap. Ever overestimated your own strength? We've all been there, whether it's lugging heavy bags or lifting something a bit too heavy. But dropping something like groceries is one thing. Dropping your bride on your wedding day, now that's a whole different level. In this clip, the newlyweds are enjoying their first dance. Everything seems perfect, but the groom decides to go a little beyond the usual. You can plan every detail of your wedding day, but it might be wise to test whether you can carry your bride a few steps before trying it in front of a crowd. Both dressed in matching pink, he tries to lift his bride to make the moment extra special. Unfortunately, his ambitious move backfires, and they both crash onto the floor. The guests burst into laughter, turning the potentially awkward moment into a funny one. But the groom doesn't let the situation get out of hand. Instead, he quickly recovers by turning the fall into a playful moment. Before you know it, the couple is on the floor, sharing a passionate kiss, winning over the crowd. This just goes to show that even when things don't go as planned, love can turn it all around. After all, a good laugh and a smooth recovery can save any moment, no matter how embarrassing. Number 13. Groom slaps bride. Weddings are meant to be a celebration of love and joy, but sometimes things take a disturbing turn. In one shocking incident, what should have been a beautiful moment quickly spiraled into something far worse. The wedding appears to be an arranged marriage, and neither the bride nor groom seemed particularly happy to be there. However, it was what happened next that truly left everyone stunned. As part of the traditional cake cutting, the groom fed his bride a slice of cake. But when it was her turn, she decided to have a little fun by teasing him, pulling the cake away playfully before bringing it to his mouth. What seemed like a harmless bit of humor quickly escalated into an outrageous act. In front of all their guests, the groom viciously slapped his new wife across the face. The room went silent, in shock. Some guests were left in tears, horrified by the public display of violence. The bride remained there, confused and unsure of how to react, while the rest of the wedding party looked incredibly uncomfortable. This unsettling moment quickly went viral, sparking outrage across social media. One user powerfully commented that the groom needs a lesson in human rights. It's safe to say, this groom's behavior sparked conversations far beyond the wedding hall, and rightly so. Such actions are unacceptable, no matter the circumstance, and should never be tolerated. Number 12. Photographer falls into water fountain. Weddings are full of picture-perfect moments, but sometimes the unexpected steals the spotlight. During one wedding, a photographer found himself making quite the splash, both literally and figuratively. It was supposed to be a routine moment, capturing the happy couple as they walked away from the altar. But as the photographer tried to get the ideal shot, he took one step too many, and before anyone could stop him, tumbled backward into a water fountain. The water was cold, and his camera gear took a dive with him. Instantly, people rushed to his aid, though the first priority was to rescue the expensive equipment and preserve the pictures. Thankfully, both the photographer and his camera were quickly pulled from the water, the cameras dripping but salvageable. I guess the moral of the story is to be aware of your surroundings when shooting, or have a spotter follow you around to keep you from doing something silly. Number 11. Bride and groom fall off the stage in hyped dance moment. In 2021, a viral video captured the attention of social media. It featured a bride and groom experiencing a dance floor mishap, but instead of feeling embarrassed, they handled it with total grace and joy. It was their big day, and nothing was going to dampen their spirits. The video shows the couple, full of excitement, dancing hand in hand as they enter the hall, their happiness evident to everyone watching. The energy was so contagious that the groom decided to take it up a notch by lifting his bride onto his back. Unfortunately, his enthusiasm got the best of him, and he lost his balance, causing both of them to tumble in front of the entire crowd. But here's the twist. Neither of them was bothered by the fall. The bride quickly jumped to her feet, threw her arms in the air, and continued dancing like nothing had happened. The crowd erupted in cheers, and their positive attitude turned what could have been an embarrassing moment into a light-hearted and memorable one. The video has drawn hundreds of comments on Instagram, with viewers admiring the couple's sense of humor and endless energy. Number 10. Haboob dust storm crashes Arizona wedding. Every marriage faces its challenges, but what happens when you encounter your first storm on your wedding day? That's exactly what Gus and Jennifer Luna experienced back in 2011, when an unexpected guest decided to crash their Arizona wedding. A massive dust storm rolled in, turning their big day into something truly unforgettable. At first, everything seemed to be going smoothly. The ceremony was underway, friends and family were gathered, and the mood was joyful. But then Gus noticed something troubling on the horizon, a wall of dust rapidly approaching. As the storm crept closer, the panic on Gus's face became clear. He urged the officiant to hurry things along, wanting nothing more than to finish the ceremony before the storm hit. In a twist of irony, the couple had included a sand ceremony as part of their vows, a symbolic gesture where both partners pour sand into a single container to represent their commitment. Little did they know, the haboob had its own plans to add even more sand to their lives. Despite the chaos, Gus wrestled with an umbrella while trying to keep the ceremony on track. Jennifer, on the other hand, seemed to find humor in the situation, laughing even as their first married kiss became a sandy one. It was definitely a wedding to remember, and hopefully, 10 years later, their kisses are a lot less gritty. Number 9. Groom falls off horse at Indian wedding. At many traditional Sikh and Indian weddings, the groom's grand entrance on a beautifully adorned white horse, or godi, is a centuries-old custom symbolizing royalty. But not every ride goes as planned. and one such entrance in Surrey, Canada, quickly turned from elegant to chaotic. The groom, fully dressed in ceremonial attire, approached his horse, Misty, for what should have been a smooth ride to the wedding venue. However, from the start, the horse appeared nervous, circling its handler in distress. Despite attempts to calm the situation, the crowd grew concerned as the horse's agitation escalated. As the handler tried to stabilize the horse, urging the crowd to stay quiet, things took a dramatic turn. The horse bolted unexpectedly, throwing the groom off its back in just a few seconds. The groom landed on the grass with a loud thud, sending the guests into a panic. His turban even fell off during the tumble. Fortunately, the groom stood up shortly after, shaken but not seriously hurt, as family and friends rushed to help. According to Ziza Stiesny, the horse's handler, the accident may have been caused by the groom's failure to remove his sword and shoes before mounting. She believed the sword or the shoe might have poked the horse, making it anxious and triggering the sudden reaction. However, other horse trainers criticized the incident, calling it preventable, and noted that the mounting should have been done on the left side, which is more familiar to horses. Number 8. Best man's wardrobe. Malfunction. At the altar. Weddings usually bring out tears of joy, but what happens when those tears are from uncontrollable laughter instead? During a wedding ceremony, the best man confidently stepped up to present the rings, but what happened next left everyone in stitches. Without warning, his pants slipped down to his ankles, revealing his striped underwear. In front of the bride, groom, and a fully packed audience, this wardrobe malfunction couldn't have come at a more awkward time. The entire wedding party burst into uncontrollable laughter, and even the priest struggled to keep a straight face. The bridesmaids, all 7 of them, were blushing as bright as their dresses, trying to contain their giggles. The bride herself was so caught up in the hilarity that she could barely repeat her vows. What started as a formal ceremony quickly turned into a comedy show, and for a moment, all the wedding jitters were completely forgotten. Though embarrassing for the best man, his unexpected mishap turned out to be a blessing in disguise, helping to lighten the mood and ease everyone's nerves. Number 7. Bride faints after saying, "I do." Catherine Frank's wedding day was picture perfect, but not without an unexpected twist. It was July 7th, 2023, and the Louisiana heat was relentless, nearly reaching 100 degrees. Catherine, 28, and her groom Alex, 26, stood at the altar, excitedly exchanging vows in front of 300 guests. Everything was going according to plan, until Catherine began to feel the temperature take its toll. She had been standing under the intense heat for about 40 minutes, and though she tried to brush off the growing lightheadedness, her body had other plans. Right after saying, "I do," Catherine whispered to Alex that she thinks she's going to pass out. Before anyone could react, she fainted, collapsing in front of everyone. She later described seeing only boots around her when she regained consciousness, as her dad and Alex, both wearing cowboy boots, stood by her side, trying to help her. The crowd was stunned, and some rushed to her aid, fanning her and trying to cool her down. Alex, staying calm, reassured her that she'll be fine. The heat and dehydration were overwhelming. Catherine collapsed not just once, but 3 times during the ceremony. The bride tried to compose herself quickly, determined to finish the wedding despite her dizzy spells. Though she pushed through and finished the ceremony, Catherine's ordeal wasn't over. After the ceremony, she boarded a school bus the couple rented to shuttle guests to the reception. Unfortunately, she felt sick again, though she didn't faint this time. The day after, Catherine ended up in the emergency room, where doctors told her she had been severely dehydrated, possibly suffering from a minor virus. Looking back, she and Alex laugh about the whole experience. Number 6. Bride missing half her dress. Wedding day mishaps are nothing new, but what unfolded during one bride's ceremony left everyone completely stunned. As Dubai-based bride Becky Jeffries walked down the aisle, she was ready for the perfect day. But just as the vows were about to begin, Becky suddenly realized something crucial. Half of her wedding dress was missing. The ceremony was in full swing, and with guests eagerly watching, Becky calmly took hold of the microphone and halted the proceedings. With a smile, she explained to the crowd that the back part of her wedding dress hadn't been attached. Rather than panic, she handled the situation with grace, drawing laughter and support from her guests. The light-hearted moment provided a much-needed break in the day's tension, and it wasn't long before the missing piece of her dress was found and properly attached. The whole scene was later shared on TikTok by Becky, racking up millions of views. Before we continue, here's today's subscriber's pick. If either of these weddings in the image were mine, I think I'd be hiding in embarrassment. Let's break it down. On the left, it seems like a typical moment where the newlywed couple proudly presents themselves to their guests for the first time. But things took a turn when the groom, perhaps a little too relaxed, let out a very audible fart. The sound and the smell were enough to cause a stir among the guests, turning this special moment into something unforgettable for all the wrong reasons. Now, the wedding on the right takes things up a notch. Here we have a groom who made an unconventional choice for his best man, a close female friend. That alone isn't unusual, but what happened during the ceremony sure was. Right in the middle of the event, the groom reached over and grabbed her behind, with his bride standing on the other side. Needless to say, this did not go unnoticed, and the wedding came to a screeching halt right then and there. We don't need to tell you that the marriage didn't last long after that. What do you think of these cringe-worthy moments? Let us know in the comments section below. Number 5. Bride refuses to enter wedding venue. Weddings are meant to be magical, but sometimes a single detail can throw the entire day off. In one dramatic moment, a bride found herself at the entrance of her wedding venue, ready to make her grand entrance. But something wasn't right. Surrounded by friends, family, and loved ones, she suddenly stopped and refused to walk in. The reason? The song she had carefully chosen for her entrance wasn't playing. It might seem like a small thing to some, but for her, it was a key part of the moment she had envisioned for months, maybe even years. After all, every bride deserves her moment, and the right song can set the perfect tone. Despite several attempts to get the staff to play the correct track, the bride's requests were ignored, leading to a tearful standoff at the venue's doors. Her friends and relatives tried to comfort her, but the bride stood her ground, unwilling to move until the music she had chosen was played. Number 4. Bride falls off scooter. This next moment has a bit of a bittersweet twist. A young bride, still dressed in her stunning white wedding gown, and her husband decided to make their grand exit from the ceremony on an electric scooter. Unfortunately, neither of them thought to wear helmets, which added some risk to their fun departure. But don't worry, no one was physically harmed, though embarrassment was definitely involved. The husband was confidently steering the scooter, eyes ahead, while his bride sat behind him, side saddle style, reminiscent of how women used to ride horses before they wore pants. Everything seemed smooth until they encountered a speed bump. As the scooter bounced, the bride lost her balance and tumbled off, hitting the ground hard. What made this moment even more cringe-worthy is that the husband didn't notice that she had fallen. He kept riding ahead, completely unaware that his new wife was left behind. Onlookers and nearby cyclists rushed to check on her. Thankfully, she wasn't physically hurt, but the embarrassment was clear. It's hard not to feel for her. Falling off a scooter in your wedding dress, just after saying, "I do," is a moment no one wants to experience. Number 3. Ring fell into lake. A wedding by the stunning waters of Lake Tahoe. What could go wrong? For Andrew and Marley, the beautiful setting became a moment they would never forget for all the wrong reasons. As the ceremony unfolded with loved ones watching, Andrew, the groom, reached into his pocket to retrieve the ring. But nerves got the best of him, and before anyone could react, the precious ring slipped through a crack in the dock, straight into the freezing water below. Panic set in. Marley, in her wedding gown, and Andrew both dropped to their knees, peering through the dock's wooden planks, hoping against hope that they could still spot the ring. And there it was, sparkling on a boulder, 5 feet below the surface. Andrew even considered diving in to retrieve it, but the minister wisely advised against it, reminding him of the dangers of hypothermia. The ceremony pressed on, though ringless for the time being. Marley playfully pretended to toss her own ring over her shoulder before slipping it onto Andrew's finger. Although the moment was tense, the couple managed to keep their spirits high and continue with their vows. However, their story didn't end there. The following day, Phil Abernathy, a seasoned diver from Tahoe Scuba Group, took on the mission to recover the lost ring. Using a clever technique of dropping a pebble through the same gap in the dock, Phil was able to pinpoint the exact location. After a short dive, he surfaced triumphantly, holding the ring in his hand. The couple's relief and excitement was obvious as the ring was finally returned, safe and sound, ready to take its rightful place. Number 2. Groom stuck in an elevator. Brandon Valdez was all set for his big day, but fate had a different plan. As he prepared to meet his bride, Misty, at the altar, an unexpected twist occurred. Along with his groomsmen, Brandon found himself trapped in the hotel elevator at the Best Western Clovis Cole, just hours before his wedding. The odds of getting stuck in an elevator are slim, but on your wedding day, that's something no one expects. Brandon, however, managed to keep his cool. He informed his family, but no one dared to tell Misty right away. After all, the last thing anyone wanted was a panicking bride. While the minutes ticked away, the Clovis Fire Department rushed to the scene, eventually freeing Brandon and his 6 companions. Though he was more than an hour late, Brandon made it to the altar, and the ceremony went on without further hiccups. Misty, unaware of the drama unfolding behind the scenes, finally learned of the situation from the priest just moments before the groom's arrival. Despite the light-hearted nature of the mishap, the couple had to forego their family photo session at the church due to the delay. The hotel management offered a discount on a future stay as compensation, though Brandon and Misty, being locals, weren't exactly thrilled about the offer. Number 1. Bride loses temper on wedding day. Emotions tend to run high on a wedding day, but for this bride, it was all too much. The stress hit its peak when she discovered that the wedding program still hadn't been sent to the church. Already dressed and ready, the bride was furious during a phone call with her groom, who claimed to still be undressed. The frustration only grew when she pointed out that despite being a woman, she was prepared and waiting while he lagged behind. As her anger built, the bride's crew of makeup artists and dressers did their best to calm her down, but the tension didn't ease. She continued to vent, upset about the delays and the pressure of the day. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.